ACT and National have stated that they want to sell government assets. Thankfully, they have the minimal decency needed to wait for a public mandate to do so. So they will not be doing this until after the 2026 election. That is what Luxon says. National probably wants modest asset sales. Knowing the ACT Party, they most likely want to sell the lot. What do I make of this? I don't like it. I want New Zealand to retain control of vital infrastructure. The Cook Strait Ferry, Kiwi Rail, I think it is important for our security and economic interests that we have control over vital infrastructure. The government may argue that these things are not profitable. Oftentimes, that is exactly why they should be state-owned. Because some services are unprofitable, yet necessary. That is the reality. The government does not exist to make profit, it exists to provide services that keep society functioning. Sometimes crucial services are not profitable. I do not want large-scale asset sales. I do not want some right-wing government plundering New Zealand's resources to please their rich donors. They want to sell your assets to fund tax cuts for their rich donors. If you don't think that is what will happen, you are naive. That is basically the ACT Party's entire political agenda. We must not give them a chance to go through with this agenda. They must be defeated at the next election. New Zealand First has said they oppose asset sales. This is a core part of their party's identity, so this is not that surprising. But it will make it very hard for National and ACT. They will need to form a government without New Zealand First. I think they will struggle to do that. Or New Zealand First needs to have a change of heart. I don't see that happening so long as Winston is around. Shane Jones has no values or principles, so he probably would go along with it. But Winston is at least a somewhat principled man. At the core of asset sales and privatisation is this delusion about private ownership. The right operates under this delusion that private companies are these incredibly efficient entities in contrast with the incompetent government. But this popular contrast is largely a lie. Anyone who has worked for a private company knows that many private companies are home to lots of incompetence and inefficiency. Of course, we notice this more with the government because the government is constantly being analysed by everyone. If the average private firm received as much scrutiny as the government, a similar number of flaws would probably be detected. But no private company receives anywhere near as much scrutiny as the average government does, creating a false perception of perfection. They claim private companies can fail, so they have stronger incentives. They forget that governments can be voted out or overthrown. I do agree that private firms can be very efficient and do have a place. But I strongly reject this romanticised framing that portrays them as perfect in contrast to the state. This is a load of nonsense. This narrative is promoted by big money interests. Big money interests who want to see you exploited. They want their servants to sell the assets we own as a nation so they can get a big tax cut. They also want to buy those assets so they can exploit consumers and make enormous profits. Selling state assets is just another vile donor-serving policy. Anyone who thinks it will produce prosperity is kidding themselves. It will be used to enrich the wealthy, and ordinary people will be neglected as usual. The right-wing parties like user pays, you get what you pay for. Their donors get what they pay for. An anti-worker economic agenda.